the world is changing, and fast. For the last 80 years, globalization has defined our lives, our economies, and even our politics. But what if that chapter is closing? What if we're returning to an era of empires? Today, we're diving into how the world got here, starting with the Bretton Woods system, and where we might be heading as big power politics take center stage once again. It's a story of economics, geography, and ambition. Let's get started. To understand where we're going, we need to start with Bretton Woods. In 1944, as World War II raged on, 44 nations gathered in New Hampshire to create a new global economic system. Their goal? Stability. And they succeeded, for a while. The Bretton Woods system pegged currencies to the US dollar, which in turn was backed by gold. It was a framework that allowed trade to flourish and economies to rebuild after the devastation of war. But no system is perfect. By the 1970s, Bretton Woods began to unravel. The US abandoned the gold standard, trade imbalances grew, and competitors like China emerged. What started as a tightly controlled system became a sprawling network of globalization, for better or worse. That brings us to today. The world order built on Bretton Woods is under strain, and the cracks are becoming impossible to ignore. Another key moment that kept the Bretton Woods-inspired system going a little longer was the end of the Cold War. The fall of the Soviet Union didn't just reshape geopolitics, it unleashed a flood of Russian commodities onto the global market. Russia became a critical supplier of energy and raw materials, fueling the engines of globalization. Europe relied heavily on Russian oil and gas, while global industries benefited from access to these resources. For a while, it seemed like this infusion of commodities would stabilize and even extend the life of the global system. But as we now see, reliance on a single supplier, especially one with conflicting geopolitical interests, can be a double-edged sword. The cracks in this arrangement have become glaringly apparent in recent years. Globalization falters, nations are turning inward, or perhaps upward. The 21st century is starting to look more like the 19th, with big powers eyeing regions and resources to secure their future. Let's talk about a few key examples. Former President Trump's comments about Canada being the 51st state might have seemed like a joke, but there's strategic weight behind them. Canada's vast natural resources, its Arctic access, and its deep integration with the US economy make it an indispensable partner, or perhaps more, in the eyes of some. As the Arctic opens up, control over this region will be critical for trade and security. Canada's geography makes it a linchpin in this emerging frontier. Next, let's talk about the Panama Canal, a strategic choke point that's as important today as when it opened in 1914. Nearly 6% of global trade passes through this narrow waterway. China's growing investments in Central America, including ports and infrastructure, are a direct challenge to American influence in the region. Who controls the canal's access controls the flow of goods and the balance of power. Then there's Greenland. Remember when Trump floated the idea of buying it? It might have sounded absurd, but the reasoning was solid. Greenland is rich in rare earth minerals, essential for technology and defense. As the Arctic becomes a new arena for competition, Greenland's strategic importance is only growing. Russia and China are already making moves in the region, and the US can't afford to fall behind. So, what does all this mean? The system Bretton Woods created brought stability and growth, but it's no longer fit for purpose in a multipolar world. The future might look more fragmented with regional blocs, resource-driven alliances, and perhaps a return to the strategies of empire. America, with its geographic advantages and resource wealth, is well-positioned, but only if it adapts. The global order that defined the last century is shifting. As nations pivot toward regional influence and resource control, we may be witnessing the return of empire-like strategies. The question isn't whether this shift will happen, it's how we adapt to it. What do you think? How should America navigate this new era of big power politics? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights into the world of geopolitics.